New Zealand Food Safety has found that the mouldy school lunches served at Hayata Community College or campus were caused by meals being left unrefrigerated at the school, citing human error. They made an even stronger worded statement to me late last night after the school principal questioned the findings. Deputy Prime Minister David Seymour says some news outlets reported unverified allegations without applying basic scrutiny. We'll get to that shortly, but first joining me now is David Seymour. Hi, David.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Good, thank you, sir. So late last night, New Zealand Food Safety updated their statement to me. This was much later and used far stronger language. And I quote, "Our investigation found it is more than likely that the issue arose from human error at the school." They also went on to say, "We note that on the day of the complaint, there were 15 other schools that received meals from the same distribution centre, and we received no other complaints. But the principal says the investigators have viewed the evidence that shows otherwise. Who's right? Who's wrong?"
Well, it's pretty interesting that they've come out with a conclusion, and the principal has said that she's got evidence proving their conclusion is wrong. So she's saying that the investigators watched the videos that contradict Compass's story, and yet they didn't come to the same conclusion as her. And I don't know how you resolve that. But, you know, if you look at the overall situation, you've got a principal who's a frequent flyer, who's been very fast to get out into the media, over 20 articles in the last year about various government policies. You've got 15 other schools that got the same meals that didn't have a problem. And you've got a government department that's responsible for food safety, that's always been prepared to criticise this program in the past if they thought there were problems. But they sent 3 people round to the school, kept an open mind, asked all the questions, and came to the conclusion that it was the school. So, look, you know, people can make up their own mind on that. I just think it's a shame that a principal of a school would not say, "Okay, folks, we've got a problem here. Let's do an investigation. Let's find out what happened." Instead of being out in the media for 24, now 48 hours, when all they needed to do was put child safety number 1, child education number 2, and maybe if the media call and say you want an interview, you just say, "Look, you know, we don't actually need to do this," because otherwise you have these accusations out there that I have to defend. You know, it's a denigrating of the government, denigrating of Compass and the people that work there. None of this is necessary, and it all distracts from those kids' education.
Well, the irony was, David, I was listening to RNZ briefly this morning. Peggy was on, of course, and she said she had to cut the interview short because she had another interview to do at TVNZ, and I thought that was kind of ironic, and even Ingrid had a bit of a laugh at that. Now, I want to discuss more about the media stuff in a moment, but how damaging do you believe the initial allegations have been to, I suppose, for the parents, but also for the school lunch program and for the provider?
Well, it's a shame because it's taken up massive amounts of attention. The reality is that we deliver 250,000 meals a day. We do it really well, and that is free. You know, it's paid for by the taxpayer. We've almost halved the cost to the taxpayer. We're saving hundreds of millions of dollars. We're a country that needs to save money and be more productive, so that's actually a big positive. And yet, you know, one principal, before the facts are known, has managed to politicise the issue for the last 48 hours. I just think that's a real shame.
You have criticised the principal for what you described as a media campaign. Is that because of the sheer number of interviews she conducted? I mean, when she posted those comments on the school's Facebook page, she was on, I think, RNZ. She was quoted the New Zealand Herald, the Christchurch Press eventually. She was everywhere.
Well, I don't know if I've criticised her. I've just made the point that, you know, as a principal, your first priority is your children's safety. Your second priority is their education. I would have thought rather than rushing from one media interview to the next, it would be more important to go out and say, "Look, you know, this is a problem. We're going to get to the bottom of it. Food safety are going to do an investigation. We'll get their results." But instead, you know, they've forced this thing to be played out through the media. I think that's a real shame.
When Peggy was questioned this morning about the findings of the report, she said, and I quote, "I can't explain that. It defies imagination, but it's probably politically expedient that is what the story and the narrative needs to be." She's essentially accusing food safety officers of political interference in that statement. What do you make of that?
Well, it's a pretty extraordinary statement that Food Safety NZ are now being accused of putting politics ahead of food safety. I suspect that that's not going to win her any friends, because people actually need Food Safety NZ to do its job with integrity. There's actually no reason to suggest that they're not. There's an apparent contradiction between her account and theirs. Was there a video? Does it show one thing? Did they conclude another? But actually, all of us, and that includes me, I'm not conducting the investigation, I'm not visiting the school, I'm just getting the same reports as everyone else. It would be better to assume that people are actually not lying, that they're doing their best, rather than jumping to the conclusion she just has.
David, could it be, though, that Food Safety NZ could be wrong?
Well, anything's possible. It may be that there is some explanation for this contradiction we haven't thought of. It's always possible.
I
just ask the basic question, why would that be?
You've suggested RNZ reported claims without proper verification. Then again, couldn't you also argue they're simply just reporting quotes from the principal, and isn't that still reporting even if the principal's comments are contentious and potentially wrong?
I mean, I made a post on my Facebook yesterday which was just based on a screen capture of someone's newsfeed, and it showed 5 different stories in a few hours that Radio New Zealand had run about a few lunches, out of 250,000, when the facts weren't actually known. So I would say to people, look, is this really media that is reporting on what matters? And are they reporting in proportion to the facts they have to report on? They seem very happy to do a full core press based on speculation. I would argue those priorities are wrong.
This is probably a question I need to put to Peggy, but she told RNZ they didn't have the facilities to reheat meals, but back in March she told RNZ they have huge kitchens to heat meals if required. They just need a lot more administration staff. What do you make of that?
Well, I always try and sort of assume the best in people. So look, maybe they had kitchens then and they've been removed. Maybe they can cook some sort of meals, but not the ones come. I mean, there could be explanation.
There could be.
But on the face of it, it does sound rather odd.
She said she's not political in any of this, and here's where I think I've got an issue with some of this, and that is a Labour MP visited the school earlier this year and recorded children doing vox pops, asking them what they thought about the food, and of course it was terrible and it was disgusting and all those types of things, criticising the government-funded lunch program. That made me feel slightly unclean, using children for political purposes. What do you make of that? It's just my opinion, but I personally don't like politicians, even on the right. Well, I mean, I've seen you at schools as well. There's something about politicians turning up at schools and using children for their political ways that just seems unclean to me.
Well, on the other hand, you want politicians to be accountable for education, and it's pretty hard to go to a school and talk about education without encountering young people. I think if politicians tried to do education without ever talking about students, then there's something wrong with that too. So look, I don't know where the line is.
All right. Finally, so the principal told me in an email last night she is, and I quote, perplexed by the investigation's findings, and I guess she intends to challenge them. So what is your response to this?
Well, if she's got information that she didn't present yesterday, or if she feels that the information she presents yesterday was not properly considered and that might change the conclusion, then she should talk to them. But at this stage, frequent flyer in the media politicising these issues, jumped the gun this time, rushing from one interview to the other. 15 schools got the same meal and no other complaints. And Food Safety NZ have given her a good hearing and made a finding. So there's always a possibility that something else will be found, but it's not sounding very likely.
Just finally, one of the mothers of a child who allegedly got sick from the food personally blames you for the disgusting food and said that if the food tastes better, then we wouldn't have a problem. But she blamed you for the mouldy food issue.
Well, again, I mean, she can make it personal or political or whatever she wants. That's up to her. But I would say that her responsibility, first and foremost, for her own children, that the school lunch program that we deliver has saved the taxpayer a fortune while delivering a quality that people are happy with. That's a pretty positive outcome. I think it's also a good time to acknowledge the other 75% of parents of children who are not eligible for the Healthy School Lunch program, who make and pay for and send their children to school with their own lunch. Those are a group of people that need to be considered, and I suspect that they probably don't have a lot of sympathy for this lady blaming a politician who's actually done a very good job of taking a responsibility that most people take for their own children.
Deputy Prime Minister David Seymour, thanks so much for your time this morning. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Cheers.